Welcome back to another spine-chilling compilation that'll make you question every shadow in your room tonight. I've gathered 5 absolutely terrifying true stories that happened to real people, stories so disturbing, they'll burrow into your mind long after you close your eyes. These are raw, unfiltered encounters with the unexplained that left their victims forever changed. So grab your favorite blanket because you're going to need something to hide behind. Also comment where you are watching from.
If you think you know how a school lockdown goes, you're not ready for this. They called it a drill. Standard lockdown. Middle of third period on a rainy Thursday. Teachers followed the script. Doors locked, lights off, silence in the halls. Then, someone started locking the outside doors. Not from the inside, not from the office, from the hallway. He wore a navy jacket, carried a huge ring of keys, said he was with facilities. But when the lockdown ended, there was no record of him. No paperwork, no name. And the keys he used? They didn't match anything on file. It started at Langford High. Just a regular lockdown drill. The office had called it in that morning. Everyone was expecting it. Except, about 5 minutes in, 2 teachers reported a man in a dark blue jacket walking the halls. One said he helped her close a stairwell door, said he had orders from district maintenance. She didn't think much of it, until she realized she didn't recognize him. Langford was a small school. Staff barely changed. And this guy, tall, pale, wearing thick gloves, just didn't fit. Another teacher said he watched the man unlock a closet near the gym. But that closet had been welded shut years ago after a mold issue. It had no working lock. When the drill ended, they went to thank him, but he was gone. No one saw him leave. None of the exits triggered alarms. Security footage, camera down in that hallway, static. The school, called district maintenance. They hadn't sent anyone. No janitors were scheduled that day, outside of regular hours, so they went room by room. Closets, boiler room, everywhere, nothing. But in room 112, the old driver's airdroom, they found something under the radiator, a large metal keyring. It had 14 keys, none labeled, and none matched any of the locks in the building. One key, though, a long brass skeleton key, matched a door that no longer existed. Back in the 90s, there was a basement tunnel that connected Langford's west wing to a maintenance shed. It was sealed in 1997 after a fire, but one janitor didn't make it out. His name was Richard Weller, 51st, worked there almost 20 years. Died trying to lock the school down during a false fire alarm. They say he had the only full master key ring. It was never recovered. The teachers who saw the man were shown a photo. Langford's staff memorial, class of 98, third row, right side, janitor Richard Weller. Both said the same thing. That's him. Same coat, same walk, same set of keys on his belt. But the man they saw looked newer, healthier, alive. The district chalked it up to confusion. Old stories, lockdown stress, bad camera feeds. They tossed the keys in a drawer and moved on. But a week later, during another scheduled drill, the old boiler closet, the one welded shut, was found open. And inside was nothing, except one item. A folded note, yellowed with age. It read, "Drill wasn't over. Still locking down." The school replaced all the locks, upgraded the cameras, put security at every door. But every few months, someone finds a door they can't explain, one that opens without a key, or refuses to lock no matter what they try. And sometimes, when the PA system glitches. Students swear they hear footsteps in the hall, right after the doors have already been sealed. One final note: the new night custodian quit after a single shift. Said he kept hearing a voice on the other end of his walkie. 3 words, over and over: still locking down. The school had done everything right. Doors locked, lights off. Every teacher ran the drill just like they were trained. Students lined up against walls, quiet, still, waiting. The announcement was short: we are in lockdown. This is not a drill. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Roll call started. One by one, names were called in every room, every kid, every teacher, everyone. Accounted for. Everyone. Except for one. A boy in a red hoodie, seen on camera, walking alone on the 3rd floor. No one knew who he was. No one knew where he came from. And no one remembered seeing him before that day. He didn't show up in any classroom. He wasn't on any list. And when the lockdown ended, he was just gone. But that wasn't the part that scared the staff the most. It was what they saw when they looked closer at the security footage, and what they found buried in an old yearbook from nearly 30 years ago. This is the story of the boy in the red hoodie. It happened at Lincoln High, an old city school with flickering lights, long hallways, and stories the kids liked to pass around when the teachers weren't listening. That morning started out normal. 3rd period had just ended. The halls were loud, full of footsteps and backpacks slamming into lockers. Then, over the speakers, a voice, calm, firm. Attention staff and students. We're going into lockdown. This is not a drill. That's all it said. Teachers rushed to their doors. Classroom lights went out. Blinds were pulled. Kids huddled up, knees against their chests, barely breathing. Security checked every hallway. Every door was locked. Everything was still. But then, the 3rd floor camera pinged. One of the officers watching the feed noticed something. A figure, walking, alone, calm, steady pace, red hoodie, hands in pockets, jeans, dark sneakers. Didn't look scared. Didn't look rushed. Just walking. There was just one problem. That entire floor was under renovation. No students, no teachers. No one was supposed to be up there. Every door had been chained shut weeks ago. They zoomed in. The hallway lights above him were flickering. He didn't look up. He didn't turn around. He just kept walking, right past the camera. And then, he was gone. Security called maintenance, asked if maybe someone had been up there doing repairs. They hadn't. No one had gone up there in days. And the door to that wing, still chained from the inside. Security didn't wait. 2 officers headed straight for the stairwell. Walkie-talkies crackled. 3rd floor. North side, that's where the figure was last seen. They reached the top of the stairs. Lights overhead were flickering, like they were shorting out. The hallway was freezing. Not just cold. Off, like walking into a place that wasn't meant to be open. They moved fast, checked every classroom, every corner. Empty, every room. Not a sound, not a trace. But downstairs, in one of the lockdown classrooms, students started hearing footsteps. Above them. Slow, then fast, then they stopped. Then came the laughter. Not loud, not wild. Just a little boy's laugh. Software out of place. It came through the intercom system. No one had touched the speakers. Teachers whispered to each other, trying not to scare the kids. One teacher reached for her walkie. The line was dead. Another swore she saw something through the small window in the classroom door. A flash of red. Just for a second. Then nothing. Back upstairs. The officers found something strange in one of the old lockers. Dust everywhere. But one locker door was slightly open. Inside, there was a textbook. Clean, no dust, just sitting there, like someone had left it that morning. The name inside? David D. The last name was smudged out, but next to it in pencil was the year, 1997. And that's when one of the officers stopped. He'd gone to this school. He remembered the name. They took the textbook downstairs, brought it to the main office. The principal looked at the name and paused. David D. That name meant something. She pulled out the enrollment records. Every student in the building, listed by grade, by ID. No David D. No one unaccounted for. Everyone was there. But the cameras said otherwise. They pulled the footage again. The same boy. Same red hoodie. Same walk. But then something changed. He was seen leaving the 3rd floor, coming down the stairwell, crossing the lobby, and then walking straight out the side exit doors. But when they checked that door in person, it was locked from the inside, dead-bolted. Even stranger, that specific hallway had no working cameras installed near the exits. The last frame that showed him just stopped one step before the edge of the screen. They checked every other camera in the building. Nothing. No one matching his description ever walked back out onto the street. Security brought in old attendance logs. Just to be sure, nothing recent. But then one of the admin assistants had an idea. She grabbed a yearbook. It was from the 1996 to 97 school year. Dusty. Torn cover. She flipped to the freshman class. And there he was. Same hoodie, same face, same everything. David Torres died in a school fire, February 1997. It happened during a lockdown drill, when someone pulled a false alarm. The fire had started on the 3rd floor. He never made it out. The staff didn't know what to do. They kept the yearbook locked up in the main office. Didn't talk about it. Didn't want rumors getting around. But a few people on campus had questions, and one security officer had kept a copy of the surveillance footage. He watched it again that night, over and over. Same hallway, same boy, same hoodie. Except something was off. He slowed the footage down, frame by frame, and that's when he saw it. There were no shadows. The boy didn't cast one. His reflection didn't show in the trophy case glass. And when he passed under the motion sensor light, nothing happened. The officer zoomed in, paused on the clearest frame, and stared, because the boy wasn't looking forward. He was looking at the camera, right at it, not walking, not mid-step, just standing, smiling. That same night, the cameras glitched, the file corrupted. The footage was gone. The only thing left was one still frame, and in that image, the hallway was empty. No red hoodie, no boy, nothing. Just an old flickering light and a locker door, slightly open. It came through the speakers at exactly 3:12 p.m., right in the middle of 7th period. Just a normal afternoon at Briar Ridge Middle. Small town, 2-lane roads, the kind of place where people leave their doors unlocked and still wave at the mailman. Then the intercom crackled, a loud pop, then silence, and then, "This is not a drill. Lock all doors, move away from windows." Only problem? Nobody in the front office pushed the button. The principal was in a meeting. The secretary was locking up for the day. The announcement came from nowhere. And the voice? It wasn't his. Wasn't hers either. Wasn't anyone they recognized. It sounded calm. Way too calm. Like someone was reading from a script. Or maybe not even human. Some kids said it sounded like a grown-up. Others swore it was a girl's voice. A girl, they said, who didn't go to this school anymore. That's when phones started buzzing. Parents calling, asking what was going on. Only, the school never sent out an alert, and no one could stop the lockdown. The speakers stayed silent after that. But the doors? They stayed locked. And the lights in the main hallway flickered once, then went out. What happened next was never explained. Not by the staff, not by the district, not even by the cops, who showed up hours later. Because what they found in the main control room shouldn't have been possible. And the only trace left of that voice was a sound file buried in the system, dated 15 years ago. To the day, classrooms froze. Some teachers thought it was just a glitch. Others didn't wait. They locked the doors, covered the windows, pulled kids away from the sightlines. But the office, they were just as lost as everyone else. No alerts on their system, no button pressed. The PA system didn't even show it had broadcasted. Still, every room heard it. Same voice, same cold, flat tone. Like it wasn't warning anyone. Like it was announcing something. Then came the second message. 3 minutes later. Same voice. Remain in place. Do not respond to anyone in the hallway. No one moved. A few students started to cry. One teacher grabbed her phone and started filming, just in case it turned into something bigger. That's when they noticed the audio in the room started glitching, like faint static underneath everything. Not loud, but there, under the lights, under the vents, like the room itself was listening. The video later showed something else. A shape, maybe just dust, near the ceiling lights, but it moved against the flicker of the bulbs. Then the school phones started failing. First it was the front desk, then the classrooms, then the security panels blinked out one by one. Only emergency lights stayed on. And the clocks on the wall? They stopped. Every single one. Frozen at 3:17. That's when a student raised his hand. He looked pale, shaking. He said, "I know that voice." The room went quiet. He whispered, "That's Hannah, from the news. The girl who went missing, like a long time ago." No one laughed because her name was still written on one of the lockers in the West Wing. The locker no one used anymore. The lockdown kept going, minute after minute. Then an hour, then 2. Still no word. No text from the district. No follow-up announcements. Just silence. And then, things started to change. First the doors, some of them, opened. Not unlocked. Not pushed. They just drifted. Heavy old doors that needed effort to move. Now creaking open on their own. 1, then 2. All down the science wing. Teachers checked them. Closed them again. This time they didn't stay shut. No wind. No draft. No reason. Phones wouldn't work either. Cell service was dead. Even wired lines were just static. A math teacher tried using the walkie from the front office. It turned on, then broadcasted the same voice from before. But no one had touched the intercom. No one was even near it. The voice repeated, "Do not respond to anyone outside your room. They are not with us anymore." That's when the clocks came back. But they were wrong. Every clock on campus started moving backward. Not just stopping, actually reversing. Like time itself was unwinding. Then the lights in the hallway flared. Just once. And all of them went black, One classroom door slammed shut on its own. Locked, wouldn't open even with the master key. Inside, the students swore they heard footsteps in the ceiling. Not rats, not pipes, boots, heavy ones, walking slowly overhead. But the school's blueprints? They show there's no crawl space up there. Just air and a sealed roof. And outside, everything looked normal. Bright sky, sun still out, but none of it felt right. One student finally whispered what nobody wanted to say. I don't think this is a drill. I don't even think this is real. When the lockdown finally lifted, it didn't come through the intercom. No announcement, no bell, just silence. Teachers slowly opened doors, peered into hallways that were dim and empty. One called the office on her cell. Signal was back, but no one picked up. They found the secretary sitting in her chair, frozen, pale, staring at the intercom system. She just kept whispering, "That wasn't us. That wasn't us." Later that night, the district called in a team to inspect the system. Techs looked through all the broadcast logs. They found nothing. No alerts sent. No recorded messages. No source. Every intercom event from that day was blank. So they pulled the building's security audio, checked it against local radio towers, emergency systems, even weather alerts. Still nothing. But one technician, just one, ran the voice through a forensic filter. He didn't say much, just that the vocal patterns were off, human, but wrong. Something about the way it paused between words, the pitch shifts. He called it modulated, not robotic, but like it had been edited by something that didn't fully understand how humans talk. Then he said this: "It wasn't real-time audio, it was a recording." And not one made that day. Because the last trace of audio on the system? One file, no name, just a timestamp. It was marked 15 years ago, to the day. And the voice matched almost perfectly with a 14-year-old girl who went missing in 2008. Hannah Lewis, same town, same school. And the weirdest part, she disappeared during a lockdown drill. The next day, District IT ran a full sweep. They pulled every file, every backup, every recorded announcement in the system's history. Everything from that day? Wiped, not deleted. Gone. Even files from earlier that week were corrupted, like something had reached in and erased it all. Except for one, a tiny file buried deep in a backup server. No title, just numbers for a name. When they opened it, it was 3 seconds long. Nothing but dead air. But the timestamp, it was from March 12, 2008, exactly one day before Hannah Lewis vanished during a lockdown drill. And embedded in the file's metadata was a single line of text typed in all caps, no spaces. She was the first, not the last. They archived the file, shut the system down for good, replaced the PA entirely, but teachers still swear they hear something. Late afternoons, right before dismissal, a pop, a click, and sometimes, just for a second, a girl's voice saying, "This is not a drill."
It wasn't a drill. The intercom crackled. Then came the message. Lock the doors. Turn off the lights. Stay silent. First, we thought it was about a shooter. But what we saw, what we heard, it wasn't human. One classroom never opened their door. Not until it was too late. This is the true story of a school lockdown that may not have been caused by a person. Jamie was 17, a senior, quiet, smart, kept to herself. She wasn't the kind of kid who stirred up trouble. If anything, she avoided it. But she was there that day, the day the school went into lockdown. And she remembers everything. The school was old, too old. built in the early 60s. The floors creaked no matter where you stepped. The lights buzzed and flickered sometimes, especially near the science wing. The building always felt cold, even when the heat was turned up. That week had already felt off. There was snow in the forecast, heavy snow. A few parents kept their kids home just in case. That morning, only about half the students showed up. Jamie was one of them. Second period was when the weird stuff started. The PA system cut in with this low screech. Then nothing. No announcement. Just static. It happened twice. Teachers said it was a wiring issue. Old school, old problems. But Jamie saw something else. Right before lunch, she was walking down the east hallway alone. Her class had been let out early. She told us she saw someone at the end of the corridor. Not a student. Not a teacher. Just standing there. She didn't say anything at first. Thought maybe it was a custodian. But when she blinked, the figure was gone. That's when she remembered something. Something a friend had said earlier that week. The janitor had quit. Just walked out. No notice. One day he was there, the next day his closet was empty. People said he saw something in the boiler room. Something that scared him enough to leave everything behind. Jamie didn't believe in that kind of stuff. Ghosts, demons, whatever. But that day, she felt something. Like the air got heavier. Like the hallways weren't empty. And just before fifth period, everything got worse. Fifth period was about to start. Jamie had just taken her seat in history class. Second floor. Third door on the left. The room with the peeling map of the world. And that one broken light that always flickered when it got cold. She remembered her teacher walking in, setting down his folder, and saying something about how the snowstorm might hit earlier than expected. That's when the speaker on the wall made a sound, like it was choking on static. Then came the voice. This is not a drill. All rooms, initiate lockdown protocol immediately. There was a pause. 1 second. 2. Just long enough for everyone to realize that wasn't the normal lockdown tone. No alarms. No rehearsed phrases. Just raw, clipped words. Like someone reading from a card. The teacher moved fast. Turned off the lights. Closed the blinds. Told everyone to get down. Get quiet. You could hear the sound of chairs scraping the floor. Backpacks hitting the ground. A few kids whispered. One started crying. No one laughed. No one said it was fake. At first, they thought it was an active shooter. That was the only thing that made sense. Everyone had been trained for it. Drills, instructions, safety videos. You knew the steps. But what you're not ready for, what no one talks about, is what it feels like when it's real. Minutes passed. Maybe 10. Maybe 20. No sound in the halls. No police. No sirens. Just silence. Then the whispers started. A girl near the back leaned over and whispered that she saw someone in the hallway. A tall shape, just standing there. Said it looked like they were covered in blood. Another student told her to shut up. Said it wasn't funny. But she wasn't laughing. Jamie didn't see anything. But she heard something. Like a soft knock. Once. Then again. Not at their door. But maybe the next room over. The teacher pulled out their phone. No service. That's when one of the students tried to text their mom. But the screen froze. Wouldn't send. Whatever was happening. They were on their own. 30 minutes went by. No updates. No sirens. No footsteps in the hall. Just silence. By now, the room was ice cold. A few kids tried to text their parents. Most of the messages wouldn't go through. One student managed to send a single word. Locked. Jamie was crouched near the back of the classroom, knees against her chest. Her phone buzzed once. It was a message from her friend in room 208. Do you hear the knocking? At first, she thought her friend was messing with her. But then, she heard it too. Knocking. Slow. Rhythmic. Not loud. Like someone didn't want to be heard, but still wanted to be let in. Jamie looked at her teacher. He was already standing, quiet, watching the door. He moved toward the little rectangular window and leaned in just enough to peek out. When he turned back, his face was pale. He didn't say anything, just shook his head and backed away. That's when the tension in the room changed. Everyone felt it. Not panic, something else. Like the walls were listening. Like they weren't the only ones locked inside. Someone whispered that they saw something earlier that week. Said during gym class they looked up and saw a hand reaching down from inside the ceiling panel. Not a joke. Not a prank. Just a hand. Another student mumbled something about the land the school was built on. An old story. The kind nobody ever really looked into. About how the original building burned down in the 50s. They said kids died in that fire. 3 of them. Some say their bodies were never found. Some say they were buried underneath the school, right where the East Wing was built. Jamie never believed in ghost stories, but something about that hallway had always made her stomach turn. Too quiet, too still. And now, hiding under a desk, in a locked classroom, hearing knocks at the door, she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was out there wasn't human, and it wasn't alone. The knocking didn't stop. It wasn't loud, but it had a pattern. 3 knocks, pause, 2 more. Then it would start again. 3 knocks, pause, 2 more. It didn't sound angry or rushed. It sounded patient, like whoever or whatever was out there had all the time in the world. Jamie held her breath. Every muscle in her body was tight. Her knees hurt from crouching, but she didn't move. No one did. Then, the knocking stopped. 1 minute. Nothing. Then 2. Then 5. The silence wasn't calming. It was worse. Because now, they didn't know where it was. And then, the door unlocked. No key. No footsteps. It just clicked. And the handle started to turn by itself. The teacher stood up and whispered, "Don't move." He motioned for everyone to stay low. Stay quiet. And then the door began to open. The hallway outside was empty. Or at least, it looked that way. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, slow, steady, but no shadows, no figure, no breath. Jamie was frozen. She couldn't take her eyes off the open door. Her hands were shaking. She reached for her phone, maybe out of instinct. And that's when it happened. She didn't touch the screen. The flashlight just turned on its own, like something wanted to be seen. The light hit the wall just to the left of the door. And there, right at eye level, were handprints. 5 little handprints. Too small to belong to any of the students in that class. Too low on the wall to be from someone standing. They looked fresh, wet, like something or someone had just been there. The teacher slammed the door shut and locked it again. But everyone knew whatever had been out there, it had already gotten in. At 2:41 p.m., the lockdown was lifted. No shooter. No arrest. No threat. Police came in slow, careful. Swept the hallways. Cleared each classroom. Nothing was found. Not a single person in the building who wasn't supposed to be there. Jamie and the rest of her class were told to go home. No answers. No explanation. Just go home. Later that evening, the school district released a statement. Said there had been a technical malfunction. That the lockdown had been called out of an abundance of caution. But then something strange happened. The security footage from the school, over an hour of it, was corrupted. Everything between 1:12 and 2:34 p.m. gone. Blank. Every camera in the building glitched at the same time. Except for one frame. It came from the camera just outside Jamie's classroom. The frame is shaky, low-res, hard to make out. But in the center of the shot, something is there. A small figure. Short, thin, bare feet. Standing still right in front of the door. Head tilted to the left. Eyes wide open, glowing white. The police called it a glitch. Said it was just light distortion, maybe dust on the lens. A trick of shadows. But when Jamie saw it, she didn't blink. She just whispered, "That's what I felt." The janitor who quit the week before? His name was Carl Watkins. Worked there for 17 years. Never missed a shift. Then one day he packed up and vanished. No goodbye. No notice. His brother told reporters Carl had been acting strange for weeks. Said he refused to go into the basement. Said he believed there were tunnels down there. Tunnels nobody had used since the original building burned down. There was a fire. December 9th, 1956. 3 kids trapped inside after hours. No bodies recovered. Just ashes. The official report says the foundation was poured right over it. The new school was built right on top. The tunnels were supposed to be sealed, buried and forgotten. But some stories don't stay buried. 1 week after the lockdown, Jamie got an email. It didn't have a sender name, just a string of random numbers. No subject line, no attachments. You saw it. Don't go back. She never replied. She never showed it to anyone. But she never went back to that school either. She finished her senior year from home, quietly, no explanation. She never talked about the lockdown again. 3 years passed. One night, Jamie couldn't sleep. She was scrolling Reddit. True horror thread. Same kind of stories she used to read back in high school. That's when she saw the post. Anyone else go to school? Did you see the girl in the walls during the lockdown? She stared at it for a long time. Read the words again and again. The post had no replies, no upvotes, nothing. Just sat there for a few minutes. Then vanished. Deleted. Like it was never there. Jamie said nothing. Just turned off her screen. Sat in the dark. And thought about the handprints. The eyes. The knocking. Some things follow you, even if you leave. And some doors don't stay closed. This story was sent in anonymously. No name, no details we could trace. But here's the strange part. It's not the only one like it. We've heard almost the same story, different names, different towns, but the same details. A lockdown, a door that opens by itself. A shadow, a figure with glowing eyes. Some say it's just panic. A shared hallucination. Kids under pressure. But others, they think she's still there, wandering, still waiting behind that door, still looking for someone who saw her. So I'll ask you this, what would you do if the lockdown door opened by itself? Have you ever experienced something during a lockdown that didn't make sense? Let us know in the comments. We read every single one. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want more real stories like that.
It was just another cloudy Friday. You know the kind. Grey skies, cold air, kids counting the minutes till dismissal. Urban charter school, south side of Chicago. 3 floors, 1 basement, and a list of rules longer than most essays. They'd had drills before. Lockdown, fire. Even the fake ones where teachers test how fast you can hide under a desk. But on that day, April 15th, 2022, something went wrong. 9:47 a.m. A sharp buzz cuts through the intercom. Students expect the usual lockdown drill. They're used to it. This school's done 5 that year already. But this time, the voice on the speaker didn't say, "This is a drill." "Attention all staff, code black. I repeat, code black." Then nothing. No instructions, no follow-up, no, "Please, stay calm." Just silence. Students looked around, confused. Teachers locked the doors, shut the blinds. That was protocol. But some teachers, they looked scared. Not surprised. Scared. Down in the basement classrooms, things were already falling apart. The lights flickered, phones buzzed like crazy, texts, alerts, missed calls, and yet no cell signal. One student, Marcus, tried to call his mom, got voicemail. Another girl said her screen froze completely, wouldn't turn off, wouldn't unlock. 15 minutes in, the fire alarm blared, but the intercom came back, right over it. Same voice, same tone. "Do not leave your room. Stay where you are. This is not a drill." The problem is, nobody ever trains you for that. When the alarms say run, but the voice tells you to stay. What do you trust? the noise, or the silence. Some students joked about it later, said it must have been a glitch. But the ones who were there, especially the ones in the basement, they tell a different story. Because right after the power cut, something started moving in the ceiling. Basement classrooms were always cold. No windows, just cinder block walls, metal lockers, and that weird smell, like wet cement and cleaning bleach. That Friday, room B12 had 21 students. 2 were sleeping, 1 was texting. The rest were half listening to a film about ecosystems. Miss Walker, the teacher, was newer, young, still nervous. When the code black came on, she stood up too fast, knocked her chair over. She locked the door, turned off the lights, then told everyone to move to the back of the room, near the supply cabinets. Some kids laughed. They always laugh during lockdowns. It's a defense thing. But Miss Walker didn't laugh. Her hands were shaking. Bad. One of the kids, Darnell, said, "Miss, we just did one of these last week." She didn't answer. Then, silence. Then the fire alarm went off. A high-pitched, shrieking tone. The kind that drills into your ears and makes you want to run. Except the intercom came back. "This is not a drill. Do not leave. Stay where you are." That's when some of the students got scared. Not panic, not yet. But that nervous kind of silence, where everyone's thinking the same thing, but nobody wants to be the first to say it. Then the power went out, all at once. Just darkness. Emergency lights came on. Dim red bulbs in the corners of the room, casting weird shadows on the floor. Someone whispered, "It's probably just a glitch." Another voice shot back, "Then why isn't my phone working?" That's when they heard it, from the ceiling, above the vents. A sound that didn't belong, like metal shifting, like something crawling. No, dragging. Miss Walker stood up, walked toward the vent, and just froze. She said, "Everyone stay back." But by then, most of them had already heard the breathing. It wasn't fast, wasn't loud, but it was right above them. And it wasn't coming from any speaker. Miss Walker took a step back from the vent. Her face had gone pale. She mouthed something like, "Call for help." But no one's phones were working. No signal, no Wi-Fi. Nothing. That's when Marcus, the kid closest to the back wall, looked up. He swears he saw something in the corner, where the ceiling meets the pipes. A hand, or what looked like one. Long, thin, dark, like it was soaked in something. It didn't move like a person. It just stayed there, resting on the vent edge, like it was watching. Then it started again. The dragging, louder this time, faster, like something crawling back and forth right above their heads, right above the drop ceiling. A girl in the back started crying. Miss Walker told her to be quiet. Emergency light flickers. Then the intercom buzzed again. But it wasn't the principal's voice this time. It was distorted, broken. "Do not come out. He's still inside." Silence again. Miss Walker tried to keep calm, but her voice was cracking. She told the kids to move toward the supply closet. They squeezed in. 10, 12 of them. No room to sit. No room to breathe. Then came the loudest sound yet. A crash. Right above them. One of the ceiling tiles just dropped. Fell flat onto the floor. Dust everywhere. Everyone froze. A foot dangled through the opening. Black boot, torn at the ankle, stained. No one could tell if it was real. No one wanted to find out. Then it slowly pulled back up and disappeared. That same warped voice came through one last time. "Do not let him out." After After 2 hours, the lockdown ended. Just like that, no warning. No all clear. The doors unlocked by themselves. Lights flickered back on. Miss Walker refused to move until officers came to the room themselves. And when they did, they found only the students. No intruder, no threats, no sign of forced entry. But they noticed the ceiling tile, broken, dust scattered across the floor. They took photos, ran tests, said it was building fatigue. That was the term they used. The school issued a statement later that night. System malfunction. Emergency code triggered by an internal glitch. Except the fire alarm and the lockdown system aren't connected. They run on separate circuits, different protocols. One should not activate the other. And then there was the voice on the intercom. He's still inside. The principal never made those announcements. He was off campus that day, attending a conference. Parents were furious. The district blamed a faulty relay, but the school security logs showed something else. Roughly 20 minutes before the code black was issued, a motion sensor triggered on the basement level, in a hallway that was supposed to be sealed off. That hallway used to connect to an old boiler room. Years ago, it was closed after a fire. There were rumors, of course, that a former janitor, let go after stalking complaints, had lived there, snuck in at night, watched students through the vents. He was found dead during a lockdown the year prior. Collapsed between ductwork. Heart failure. Body wasn't discovered for days. No one ever told the students. One of the students, Mia, had recorded the whole thing. She never looked at the footage right away. Didn't want to, but 2 days later, curiosity won. She opened the snap video on her phone. It was short, 6 seconds. It showed the moment the lights came back on. The camera pans up to the open ceiling tile, and there, just for a moment, was a figure. Tall, too tall, shoulders pressed tight against the beams. Head tilted, like it was listening, but its hand. You could see the fingers. They weren't fingers. They were too long, too thin, like wires covered in skin. Mia dropped her phone and threw up. Her parents took it to the police. They never got it back. That section of the school, the basement hall with the old vent, was sealed the next week. No explanation, no announcement, just a locked door with a black sticker across it that read "Door Maintenance. Do not enter." Attention staff, please remember to submit your incident reports by end of day, even if you weren't supposed to be there. Different places, different years, but they all share one thing. Someone or something always finds a way in, even when the doors are locked. Tell me, have you ever had a lockdown that felt just a little too real? Lockdowns are meant to keep danger out, but sometimes the danger was already inside. And maybe that's the scariest part, because no matter where you are, a hallway, a classroom, a locked room, you never really know who's on the other side of that door. Which story stuck with you the most? Have you ever had a lockdown that didn't feel right? Share your story in the comments.